So Stellantis is down to a top contender. They haven't said they're going to hire this person yet, but they definitely floated the balloon out there, and Wall Street didn't react well. Stock ended down today. And whether that was their objective or not, it always seems weird to me when a company plays with someone's emotions like that. So in this case, Stellantis says, this is who we're thinking about, but maybe we're not thinking about him. Imagine being that guy going, do I get the job? Do I not get the job? What kind of games are you playing with my mind? And in the end, they ended up saying, well, this may be the guy, but it maybe not going to be the guy. But in the end, we'll let you guys know we're not making any decisions anytime soon. But I'll tell you, who it's probably not going to be. And I'll also give you my opinion on this candidate and whether I think this guy could turn around Stellantis in North America, and in particular in the U.S. market. So let's get the big question out of the way. Is it Tim Kuniskis? Well, I'm just sharing my opinion that no. I said this 6 months ago or something when Tavares left, and they said they're going to go on a worldwide search for the next CEO of the company. I said they pick CFO types, they pick COO types. They don't pick people like Tim Kuniskis. Companies don't pick people frankly, like myself to be in those kinds of positions because we will take risks. We will take chances. We will color outside the lines. We will do drastic things to make things take place. So a good example is Lee Iacocca. Lee Iacocca was a wild man, and Lee Iacocca took massive risks, did huge shifts, went on a full-on, we're going for broke mission, and brought the company back from demise, saved it.
It's no secret that foreign competitors have been giving American car makers a real beating. About 5 years ago, we decided enough is enough. This is where it stops. The first thing we did was take a good hard look at our own company. And if we found something that slowed things down or didn't add value or improved quality, we dumped it. Then we reorganized the whole place into 4 platform chains: large car, small car, truck, and minivan. We spent $1 billion on a new technology center. Now, this new way of doing business means we'll be putting our concepts in your garage while the competition is still sharpening their pencils. And if you want proof, we've got proof. The Dodge Viper, a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and this fall, a whole new line of family sedans. At Chrysler, we believe that standing still is a great way to get run over. In this business, you lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Those CEOs, I hate to say it, whether they exist anymore or not, I will tell you, nobody picks them. Nobody has the guts anymore. The dollars are so much bigger. The risk is so much higher. The opinions are so much more prolific. Now you don't just make the news, you make every possible social media site if you make a bad decision. You're on every single news station having conversations with analysts and news anchors to talk about the future of the company. They're looking for politicians. And politicians don't just say things like Tim Kuniskis says.
And most importantly, it's the most badass SUV you can buy, period.
Which is, yeah, we're going to do some burnouts and some donuts, and we're going to bring this sucker back. Think of the last time you heard a CEO say something like that.
A small dealership in Tokyo we had planned is $23 million for the land. How do I get the volume? How do I do this? So what we really need is reciprocity in the distribution system. The Bush administration calls that SII, Structural Impediments Initiative. It sounds fancy and it gets confusing. What it means is open up your goddamn market the way we've opened up ours. There's no fairness discussed in the press, with anybody, and certainly in our government.
So the notion that they would hire Tim Kuniskis, I don't see it happening. Do I think it would be a great decision? Yes, but only if they put him over North America, over the United States in particular. And here's why. I don't think he would be a great CEO over Europe. I don't think he speaks not just their language, but I mean their language, meaning, hey, let's get some V8s, let's get some fast cars, let's do some burnouts, let's do some donuts. That's not going to be a conversation that's going to go over well in France or Italy. despite the Ferrari and Lamborghini being made in Italy, it's not, they're driving Topolinos for God's sake. So in the end, he's not the guy. They're looking for a steady hand, somebody who pays real close attention to the financials, who's not afraid to make massive cuts when necessary, who counts every penny, who does what they're told, and yes, I mean a yes man. And we already learned from Tim Kuniskis already when he stepped down, was it last year or so, that this man he's a yes man to an extent, and then he's going to say no. And I still believe that's exactly what happened last time. So I also believe that people liked him, and I can only speak for myself, that those kinds of positions as CEOs of huge, gigantic, colossal companies, those jobs are extremely restrictive. A simple news interview could swing the stock and put you in serious legal jeopardy and, frankly, tank a company for a period of time. So you have to be always saying the same thing. Let's just call it a robot. You got to be a robot. Tim is not a robot. So they're looking for another robot like Tavares. Tavares was a robot. He talked the same, sounded the same. I swear you could change the guy's batteries. He probably had them in his back. The guy was a robot.
I don't need any more anxiety. You mentioned a couple of kinds of anxiety there. I don't need that layered onto my existing anxiety. You got to understand why consumers feel this way.
Sure.
You have to.
Sure.
So you're going to get to 500 miles. When is that going to happen?
It's going to happen this year.
Okay.
That's what these giant companies tend to look for. They're not going to make huge risks, take huge leaps to make big shifts and turn a company around. They want to go slow. The whole analogy of take the battleship and turn it very slowly around. It could take 3 or 4 years to fix a company. They talk in those kind of languages, but why? Why? Because those guys know that if they can just hang on 3 to 5 years, that they will get the biggest bonuses in the world for achieving objectives like Tavares did, even if it destroys the company. And then when they get pushed out, they will get a colossal, giant, golden parachute and sent off to go live in their mansion in the south of France. That's not who Tim Kuniskis is. But if they would use their brains and just put him over North America, put him over the United States, he might be able to generate some much needed excitement around the Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram brands, and also garner tremendous amounts of trust with the customers. Kuniskis is a customer-loving CEO. I can tell you from experience, personal experience, having had a personal conversation with him, and knowing that Butter and TK, and when the soldier got screwed out of his car, Tim Kuniskis descended from his palace, which I can tell you, it probably wasn't a palace. The dude's just a regular guy, came down and solved the problem and got involved and waved his magic wand and said, we're going to take care of this guy. And he did that so many times behind the scenes at a level that you wouldn't think anybody in his position would even care about people at that level. These big giant CEOs, these big, huge Fortune 500 monstrous companies aren't thinking about the customer. They're thinking about the shareholder. And frankly, they are hired and tasked to make the company look good on Wall Street and deliver dividends and increases in the stock to Wall Street. And the board of directors is tasked to hire somebody that's going to do that. And that means somebody who's going to say yes when they say do this, and they do it, even if they know it's the wrong thing. Not like what happened with Kuniskis when I think he was saying, no, all this stuff you guys are doing is stupid. He got pushed out. And I think that's why you won't see Kuniskis as the CEO. And I don't think he wants that job because, frankly, it would just give him brain damage. I know it would give me brain damage. And I'm an executive in a big company, and I don't have any aspirations to be a robot. I like talking to the people and inspiring people and motivating people and driving passionate goals and excitement around achieving great things and all that fun stuff. That's the stuff that excites me. And I feel that when I listen to Tim talk, that's who he is. And that's not a CEO of one of these giant publicly traded companies who has to sit on, MSNBC or something and get grilled by somebody about the direction of the company. And then they push him, well, why aren't you doing electric? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And be able to keep his cool, where I think Kuniskis would go, because nobody wants to buy that stuff anymore. And they need somebody who's going to have a more political answer. But anyways, let's go look at what do we got here. Who are they looking at? And will this guy turn this company around? And the candidate that they've gotten on their shortlist right now is no other than Antonio Filosa, which we've heard his name the last 6 months or so as he's been taking on other positions. But if we look at this guy's resume and where he's been, my concern with him is he has been a yes man. He's been a yes man with that company. And my feeling is the new CEO should be somebody from the outside who is going to come in with fresh ideas, listen to both the customers and the shareholders and the board of directors, and come up with a blended, move forward, fix the company strategy. This guy does what he's told, which is why he's on the short list. And if you look at everything he's done from being at Jeep and helping their globalization, which is right here, their globalization, which is something that's not generally a big benefit in leading the United States operation, other than laying people off and moving the jobs outside of the country. That's not a good thing. But the CEO of South America, Brazil, Jeep's, the expansion of Jeep into these other markets like Argentina, he's been all over the world, but not so much focused on the U.S. But he's been part of also of, well, he was recently named the Chief Quality Officer. Imagine taking that job with the Dodge Daytona, the Hornet, and the Jeep Grand Wagoneer with all their issues and the massive amounts of recalls and broken cars and issues taking place there and quality control issues. So he walks into that buzzsaw, and no question he had a say before. He's a native of Naples, Italy, so he's, I would say, on its face, he's not real familiar with what takes place in the U.S. Now, I can tell you, Tim Kuniskis, while he would be great in the U.S., nobody would want to hear anything he would say if he was in France, for example, anywhere in Europe. If he gets up, talks about doing burnouts and donuts and big V8s, the Europeans would throw him out. They would hate him as much as we hated Tavares. So why are they going to put somebody who's from that universe back in America again? I worry that we're going to be back into maybe a mini Carlos Tavares, and the board will give him some ridiculous objectives again that do not align with what the customers want, and they will continue to bury that company. So the other history that he has was he was with the Fiat Group. Well, let's just ask yourselves right now, does Fiat have a great reputation? Would you consider Fiat to be a grand success in the history of automaking? No. So you've got a guy who's been here since, I think, 2021, been on the executive team, through all the disaster and tragedy and crap that's been going on at that company. And now, despite all the horrendous behavior at that company and the destructive behavior and the horrible decisions that have been happening there, they're going to take somebody who's been there during all of that and no question had a hand in it all and promote him to the CEO. I will just tell you, while I think he's done a good job with Jeep and his involvement with Jeep, there's some success there. I don't know, but the success mostly was outside of the U.S. I mean, yeah, Jeep's done well in America, so we'll give him some of that credit as well. But the 4xe was also catching on fire last year, so I wouldn't say it's a complete and total success when you think of the Wagoneer, but it was under his watch. Even if he wasn't the CEO of that company, he had influence there, and he's high enough in the chief operating officer position to have had a say and said, we are doing things wrong. So this guy was part and parcel, in my opinion, of the destruction of that company. And they should go find somebody who's got no fingerprints on anything that's happened this last 4 or 5 years. Somebody new, fresh, go find somebody, do a deeper CEO search, and stop playing with this man's emotions and tell him he's on our short list, he might be the guy, but then maybe he won't be the guy. Just to see, I don't know if that's why, to see what happens with the stock in the day. And I can tell you, in North America, I don't think he's going to have the same affinity that somebody who's got deep roots in America, understands the car market in America, would have. I think he's still they're going to have another guy that's more focused on the European Union, more focused on globalization, and not focused on what's happening here and listening to the products that we want. But maybe he can bring back Dodge, Chrysler, and Ram. But even then, the entire company's a mess when it comes to quality and their overall products. pricing, etc., especially with the dealers and the disaster that's been, and the war that they declared on the dealers. I'll say this because somebody commented thinking I didn't know this. I also know Stellantis decided to declare war on their dealers, and the dealers declared war on us. And how did they do that? They thinned the margins to the dealers by increasing the price that they had to pay for the cars, and while raising the MSRP, making the margins even smaller for the dealers, which actually pushed the dealers in to hitting us with markups and add-ons. I'm not giving them a pass at all. They're all in the same club. They need to find somebody new, somebody fresh, somebody with good, deep experience in the U.S. that understands the U.S. auto market, that can come and rebuild that company at the very least in the U.S. and put somebody else over Europe and the rest of the globe because it's just very different markets. So with that said, let me know what you think about this possible choice in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Out here. So I'm here today to tell you briefly about our product advantages. I'm here to talk facts and facts only. And then I can only ask this of you. You'd do me a favor, I hope. Check out what I say and go take a look for yourselves and make up your own minds.